Welcome to our Sunday school program as prepared and brought to you by Mr. Benjamin. Our topic today is choosing to obey God. What are God's commands? They are the instructions He gives us about how He wants us to live, things He does not want us to live, the things He does not want us to do, and those things that He wants us to do. That's what we call God's commands. Have you ever been told to do something difficult that you did not want to do? How did you feel having to do it? Today we will hear a story about Moses when God called him to do a very difficult thing. In the book of Exodus chapter 3 verses 4 to 19, let's see what it says. One day Moses was out in the fields looking after his sheep when he suddenly saw a bush that was on fire, but it was not burning up. Suddenly, Moses heard the voice of God coming from the bush. Moses was surprised when he knew it was God speaking to him. God told him to take off his sandals because he was in the presence of God. God told Moses about his plan to rescue his people. He wanted Moses to go back to Egypt and lead the Israelites out of Egypt. This meant that Moses would have to go to the king of Egypt and tell him that he wanted to take the people away. There were many people to lead. Moses didn't think that he could do that. He was afraid. It was too difficult. God promised He would go with Moses and help him. But then Moses told God he did not think the people would listen to him. God told Moses what to say to the elders about how He would bring them out of Egypt. Moses still did not think he could do that, and he asked God to go and send somebody else. Moses was afraid that he would not be able to say the right thing. God was not happy with him and told him that He was the one who made his mouth and that He would help him. Finally, Moses understood that God would help him to do the job He had given him. He obeyed God and went to Egypt. At first, Moses did not want to obey God because the job was difficult, but finally Moses obeyed him. That's the reading for our service today. I want you to discuss with your parent the following. Number 1, have you ever experienced some difficulties in obeying your parent? Number 2, have you ever experienced some difficulty in obeying God? How was it like? How was the state like? And what did you resolve to do? Thank you. Number 3, what do we learn from the story about Moses? Then, that is the last one. Now we proceed to our memory verse for today. Our memory verse comes from the book of 1 John chapter 5 verse 3. For our love for God means that we obey His commands, and His commands are not too hard for us. Our everlasting Father, I thank You for these children. May You enable them to understand and obey Your commands. Amen. Let me do the memory verse once again, because you are doing an activity about the memory verse. A memory verse is from 1 John chapter 5 verse 3. For our love for God means that we obey his commands, and his commands are not too hard for us. That's the memory verse. I also want to give you a follow-up activity, and this is the follow-up activity. Number 1, write the memory verse on a paper. Number 2, record yourself reciting the memory verse. Then lastly, number 3, share with me your clip. Be blessed as you do your activity for today. Thank you.